Do you feel like you don't speak enough English? That you need to know more words? Then stick around. With these lessons, you'll pick up some of the most common words in just a few minutes. Now, this video is a small portion of our learning program. To get the full lessons, translations, and Fluency Fast study tools, click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the verb pay. Let's go. So the basic definition of the verb pay is to give money in exchange for goods or in exchange for services. Examples: I got paid today. He pays staff on the 20th of every month. Now let's look at the conjugations for the verb. Present, pay, pays. Past, paid. Past participle, paid. Progressive, paying. Now let's look at some additional meanings for this verb. First meaning number one, is to give an advantage to someone or something. Let's look at some examples. Crime doesn't pay. It pays to have good connections. Okay, so these are examples of the meaning of the verb pay in terms of giving someone something good, some kind of advantage or some kind of benefit. The first example sentence is negative. Crime doesn't pay, meaning crime doesn't give you an advantage or crime doesn't give you any benefits. So that's a negative example, no benefits. In the second example, I said it pays to have good connections. So it pays to have them means it provides an advantage. It's a benefit to have good connections. So we can say it pays to have maybe like rich family members. Oh, that would be nice. I don't know about that, but like it pays to have good connections means there's some kind of benefit to having good connections. So we can use pay to refer to advantages. Okay, meaning to for this verb. Meaning to is quite a broad, open meaning. So we can use pay to mean to give something, but there are kind of a few set expressions that we use, like when we want to mean giving something with the verb pay. So I'll introduce a couple of really common examples here. First, hey, pay attention, I'm talking. We're here to pay respects to our grandfather. Okay, in these example sentences, I used two very common expressions. First was pay attention. So in this case, it's a command. I'm saying, pay attention. Hey, pay attention. I'm commanding you, or it's like a strong request. Saying pay attention means essentially, give me your attention. Give me your focus. Pay attention is the expression we use for that. Hey, pay attention. I'm talking. Listen to me. Give me your focus. I'm talking. So in that expression, we use pay attention. In the second example sentence, I used the expression pay respects, or we also can say pay our respects. Both are fine. But to pay respects means like to give your respect to another person. Like I'm here to give my respect to my grandfather. We would say this at like a serious ceremony, like a funeral perhaps, or some kind of memorial ceremony, or I don't know, something that's very, very formal, like pay your respects to the emperor, perhaps. So super, super formal situations, we would say, I'm here to pay my respects to someone, usually. It's typically to a person. So in this case, you are giving your respect. And also, interestingly enough, in this expression, we tend to use the plural respects. Here to pay my respects to someone. So not the singular respect, but respects, meaning like there are perhaps many different ways I respect that person. So we use pay respects there, meaning give our respect. Okay, let's go to meaning number 3 for this verb. So the third meaning is to suffer the consequences of something. Suffering the consequences means getting punishment, essentially. Let's look at some examples. You shall pay for your crimes against humanity. And we drank too much last night and we're paying for it this morning. Okay, so both of these example sentences show suffering, some kind of suffering as punishment for something. So in the first one, I gave a very dramatic sentence. You shall pay for your crimes against humanity. Means you shall suffer the consequences. You shall be punished because of your crimes against humanity. Humanity means all people. So someone has done something very bad, they are going to receive punishment. You shall pay. It sounds very formal, maybe a little old-fashioned, like you might see in a scary movie or a fantasy movie, something like that. Yeah. The second one, maybe a more common example for some of you, we drank too much last night. We're paying for it this morning. So the speaker is speaking this morning, in the morning after drinking too much the night before. So meaning we're suffering now. The punishment for drinking too much last night is happening now. We're paying for it. We're suffering in this moment. It's not a good thing. So we can use pay to mean suffering because of something bad you did. Okay, so let's take a look at some variations of this verb and how we can use it. First one, to pay back, to pay back. So to pay back means to return money you owe someone. Sorry it took so long to pay you back. Hey, you haven't paid me back for dinner last week. So you can hear in these example sentences, we can pay someone back. We don't have to say like, to pay back, I need to pay back my friend. You can actually put the person you need to give money to between pay and back. So I need to pay my friend back is okay, or I need to pay back my friend. That's also okay. You'll hear native speakers use both of those. I think I tend to put it between pay and back. I would say I need to pay my friend back for coffee the other day, or sorry, I forgot to pay you back. I would probably separate the phrasal verb in my case. So to pay someone back means to give them money you owe them. The second variation is to pay off, to pay off. This means to finish making payments on something. Here are some examples first. I finally paid off my house. When do you expect to pay off your credit card? So to pay off something is something you have been making payments on for a long time, not just one payment, but a house is a great example. Maybe for many, many years, you pay some money each month. That's called a mortgage or a loan, I suppose. But you pay money each month. And finally, when you finish making those payments, we say, I've paid off that thing. I paid off my house, or I paid off my car, for example. So to finish making payments on something. We can do the same thing for credit cards. Like I pay off my credit card every month. It means I finish making payments, or I pay the full amount every month for my credit card. In my example sentence, when do you expect to pay off your credit card means like how long do you think, or at what time do you think you'll finish paying all the money on your credit card. So to pay off means to finish making payments on something. All right, good. So those are a few perhaps new ways of using the verb pay for you. If you have some other ways of using the verb pay, or if you want to try to make an example sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section. If you have any questions, of course, please let us know as well. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com. Thanks very much, and we'll see you again next time. Bye. You will pay for your crimes. Yeah. You shall pay for your crimes.
It's like you go.
Perfect! Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this lesson, we're going to talk about the verb meet. Let's begin. The basic definition of the verb meet is to see and speak to someone for the first time. Some examples. We haven't met. I want to meet a famous person someday. Okay, now let's look at the conjugations of the verb. Present, meet, meets. Past, met. Past participle, met. Progressive, meeting. Okay, now let's look at some additional meanings for the verb. The first additional meaning for today is to fulfill or achieve something. Examples. This apartment meets all my requirements. We met our company's sales goal for last month. So in both of these examples, we see the verb meet being used to mean fulfilling or achieving something. So like this apartment meets all of my requirements. This apartment fulfills all of my requirements. Everything I need is in this apartment. Everything I require is in this apartment. This apartment meets my requirements. In the second example sentence, we met our sales goal for the month means we achieved our sales goal for the month. We did the things we needed to do. We achieved our goal. We met our goal in past tense. Okay, let's go to the second meaning of this verb. The second meaning is to wait for someone or something. So, example sentences of this. Can you meet my mom at the station? I'll meet you in front of the restaurant. So in both of these sentences, the idea is you're going to meet someone, yes. So maybe you know the meaning of the verb as in like regularly meeting someone. Like I meet my mom for coffee once a week, or I meet my friends for lunch once a week. That's fine. This is slightly different because the feeling here is you're going to a location to wait for someone, like to wait, kind of like to pick them up, to wait to get together with them and go somewhere with them. You're going there to wait, meet, and then go. But we just use the verb meet in this case. So can you meet my mom at the station? Means can you go to the station, wait there for my mom to arrive, and then go to another place, like maybe come home with my mom. In the second example sentence, I'll meet you in front of the restaurant. It sounds like the speaker is going to go to the front of the restaurant, wait there for the listener, and then proceed to, their meal, for example. So we can use meet to mean waiting for someone or something at a specific place before they go to the next thing. The third meaning for this verb is to join things together. So two things or two or more things come together. Examples of this. The river meets the ocean here. The paths met in the forest. So the river meets the ocean here. So the space where the two things come together, that's the place where they meet. So thing A and thing B come together and meet right here. So they're joining together there. The same thing with the second sentence. So the two paths met in the forest. So maybe two different paths, there's one point where they come together. They join together. We can say the two paths met in the forest. So things coming together like this, we can use the verb meet to describe that relationship. Let's talk about some variations of this verb. The first variation is to meet halfway. To meet halfway. To meet halfway means to make a compromise or just to compromise. Let's look at some examples of this. Can we meet halfway regarding this issue? I want to go hiking and you want to have a picnic. Let's meet halfway and have lunch in the park. So these are expressions we can use to refer to a compromise. In my first example sentence, I used a question. Can we meet halfway regarding this issue means can we make a compromise regarding this issue? But meet halfway means make a compromise. It's just a shorter way, kind of a little bit more friendly. To meet halfway sounds like maybe the speaker wants to compromise a little bit. The speaker is willing to let go a little bit of their opinion or their side. In the second example sentence, I gave a pretty clear situation. One person wanted to go hiking, another person wanted to have a picnic, and so the compromise was having lunch in the park. So that's meeting halfway. Let's meet halfway, let's compromise, let's make a compromise and have lunch in the park. So we can use meet halfway to refer to compromising between a couple of different ideas. So why do we say meet halfway? Because it's like if there are two opinions and they're completely different from each other, like imagine on a line, opinion A and opinion B, and right here, halfway is the compromise point. So they're saying, let's meet halfway. Let's meet at this compromise point and continue further. So meet halfway means compromise. Okay, let's go to the next variation. The next variation is to meet one's maker or to meet your maker. To meet someone's maker means to die. It's an expression that means to die, but we tend to use it a little bit, this is sort of a strange thing to say, but we use it in sort of a funny way. So we don't really use this expression to talk seriously about death. So example sentences of this. I sent that spider to meet his maker. I'm afraid of the day I have to meet my maker. Okay, so in the first example, I said, I sent that spider to meet his maker. This is an interesting way of saying I killed a spider. So I sent that spider to meet his maker. First, let's talk about maker here. Why do we say meet his maker or meet your maker? This refers to a belief in God or a belief in a higher power. So the maker being a person, or I shouldn't say a person. So the maker would be the being that created you, that created this person, that created this thing. So to meet one's maker is to meet the person or to meet the thing or to meet the entity, whatever your belief is, that created you or that created the thing that you're talking about. So when I say, I sent that spider to meet his maker, so I'm saying I sent, meaning I caused the spider to go. So I sent the spider. I didn't actually mail a spider somewhere, but I caused the spider to go to meet his maker. In other words, I caused the spider to die. I killed the spider. That's what happened there. In the second sentence, I'm afraid to meet my maker means I'm afraid to die. But it has kind of a casual feel to it. Meet my maker or meet one's maker has sort of a not so serious feeling about death, but it means to die. So those are a few different, perhaps, ways to use the verb meet. I hope that was helpful for you and you picked up some new vocabulary words you can use. Of course, if you know some other meanings of the verb meet, if you want to try to make an example sentence, or if you have a question, please feel free to do so in the comment section. Of course, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, come subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good study tools too. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! Meat. Not the kind you eat. The first word? This is not top words. Please feel free to do so or to contact us in the comments, I guess. That was sort of weird. I don't know where that came from. I'm going to do that again. Okay. Meat. Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this lesson we're going to talk about the verb set. Let's begin. Let's begin with the basic definition of the verb set. So, the basic definition. The basic definition is to put something in a place or in a position. Some examples of this. I always set my keys on the counter. Set your bag next to the table. Okay, let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, set, sets. Past, set. Past participle, set. Progressive, setting. All right, now let's look at some additional meanings for this verb. So the first additional meaning of the verb set refers to the position, meaning like the place, or the time that a story happens. So some examples. The movie is set in New York City. My favorite book is set in the distant future. So in these examples, we see the verb set is used to refer to the place or the time when a story happens. So in the first example, I say, the movie is set in New York City. Means the story takes place in New York City. So set means takes place in. The story happens in New York City. But we use set to explain that. My favorite book is set in the distant future. So this refers to a time. So the setting, the point in time when the story happens is in the distant future. So distant future means far, far, far in the future. Into the future, not the past, the future. So in the distant future, this story happens in the distant future, but we use set. So my favorite story, my favorite book is set in the distant future. So here we see it used to refer to the location or the time when a story takes place. The second meaning for today is to cause someone or something to be in a condition. So this is a very open, this is a very broad meaning. Let's look at a few examples, some common examples here. First, you set my house on fire? The performance animal was set free. Okay, so in the first example, very dramatic example, I said, you set my house on fire. So here I said set, and then the object here is my house. You set my house, and then the condition is on fire. So on fire means it's burning, flames, bad. My house is gonna, crumble to pieces. You set my house on fire means you caused my house to be in the condition of on fire. You caused my house to be flaming. That's bad, of course, in this case. But set refers to causing an object to be in that condition. We see the same thing in the second example sentence. The performance animal was set free. So free here we see is the condition. The animal, a performance animal, probably in like a zoo or a water park or something, was set, so caused to be free, caused to become free. So the performance animal was not free before. It was set free. It was caused to become free. So we can see set is used to like cause a change in condition in something. These are a couple examples of how to do that. The third meaning for today is to establish something. So to establish something like a policy or a new like condition, a record, something like that. So examples of this. The school is setting new rules for next year. They're about to set a new record. Okay. So here, set is used to mean establishing something. In the first example sentence, I said the school is setting new rules for next year. So that means the school is establishing now. The school is in the process of establishing new policies for the next year, new rules. So setting, I've used in the progressive tense, means establishing or creating. In the second example sentence, they're going to set a new record, means they're going to establish, they're going to create a new record. So we use set in this case, to set a record. Let's go to the fourth meaning for this verb. The fourth meaning here is to get something ready for use. So like we set up the camera, or we set up the iPad, we set up the lights for this, filming operation here. So set up is a very, very common way of using the verb set, to set up something. Other examples, I spent all day setting up my computer. Will you set the alarm for 8 a.m.? So in my second sentence there, you heard I said, will you set the alarm for 8 a.m.? So that means it's like I'm preparing the alarm. In that case, I'm not like preparing something for use. I'm preparing a function in that case. So we don't say, will you set up the alarm for 8 a.m.? We'll just say set the alarm for 8 a.m. We would say set up the computer because I want to use it. I'm not setting a function of the computer. We could say set the clock on the computer. We would not say set up the clock. We would say set the clock. So set the clock is like establishing the correct time. To set up something is like to prepare it to be used. So set up a computer, good. Set up a software, fine. But set a clock, set an alarm. It's like to decide a time or to like establish some kind of functionality. We don't need to use up in those cases. So this will be an addition to meaning number 4. I want to say just quick note about how it's often used. Okay, so with this meaning, when we use the verb set to refer to getting something ready to use, like with a computer, for example, we'll often follow set with the preposition up. So, for example, I want to set up my computer, or I spent all day setting up my computer in my original example sentence. So you might see set plus up. It's commonly used with up. Not always. If you're talking more about functionality, like set an alarm or set the clock, then you don't need to use a preposition. But when you're talking about preparing something for use, you'll often see that up, the preposition up, is used in addition to set. So to set up something. So one more example might be to set the coffee pot in the coffee maker. So you're preparing it for use, but we don't say set up the coffee pot. We say set the coffee pot in the coffee maker to prepare it for use. Let's talk about some variations of how you can use the verb set. First one, to set back, to set back. To set back means to cause a delay in something. Examples, I broke my wrist and set back my project schedule. That's true. This mistake has set us back 2 weeks. So here we're seeing set back, to set something back, causing a delay. So I broke my wrist and set back my project schedule. So I broke my wrist and caused my project schedule to be delayed. I caused a delay in the project as a result of breaking my wrist. So to cause a delay. And the second one, this mistake has set us back 2 weeks. So this mistake has set us back. So meaning caused us a delay by 2 weeks. So set us. We see the object there is included in the verb, the phrasal verb, set us back. So what was set back? Us. in our project and whatever it is we're working on. This mistake has set us back 2 weeks. We were caused to be delayed by the mistake. So to set back. Or we can also use it as a noun, a setback. The second variation is to set out. To set out. This actually has 2 meanings. It can mean to begin a journey, especially like a walking journey, to set out for something. It can also mean to begin an activity. So let's look at some examples. First, they set out early in the morning. He set out to build his own company. So in the first example sentence, they set out early in the morning means they left. They began their journey early in the morning. So this is especially the case for like walking journeys. It's not only for walking journeys, but it kind of has the feeling of a little more like bodily journeying somehow. So like we set out on our bike ride or something like that. There's something kind of bodily happening, I guess, if that makes sense. Then in the second example, he set out to build his own company. So set out means like he started the activity of building his own company is what that means. Or like she set out to become the top in her class, for example. So she started the activity of working to become top in her class. So to set out to do something is to start working towards something. So to start an activity, usually with some like goal in mind. To set out to do something. So those are a few maybe new ways for you that you can use the word set. If you have some other ways that you know of to use the verb set, if you have any questions, or if you just want to try to make some example sentences, please feel free to do so in the comments. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good stuff. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! What was it? I have set up okay. Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode we're going to talk about the verb walk. Let's get started. Let's look at the basic definition of this verb. The basic definition is to make progress on foot. Examples. I walked around the neighborhood yesterday. He walks around the office to stretch his legs. Now let's look at the conjugations of each verb. Present. Walk, walks. Past, walked. Past participle, walked. Progressive, walking. Now let's talk about some other meanings for this verb. First additional meaning for this lesson is to cause an animal to walk. Let's look at some examples. Make sure to walk the dog later. Have you walked the dogs today? So here you'll see, walk the dog. So this is quite common for dogs. We don't really walk, meaning we don't really take the animal out and like go for a walk with the animal. So like we usually just use this expression with dogs. We don't usually say like walk the cat or like walk the bird or walk the sheep. I don't know. We usually use it with dogs, so walk the dog. So it's part of the animal's exercise, the necessary exercise. So we use walk before dog in this case. So make sure to walk the dog. Have you walked the dog? It means caused the dog to walk. The second meaning I want to talk about for this lesson is to accompany someone on foot. So you're traveling with someone on foot. Examples of this. She walked her friend to the station. Will you walk me home? All right, first example sentence says, she walked me to the station. She walked me to the station. So we're following the past tense walked with the person being accompanied, in this case me. She, my friend maybe, she walked me, she accompanied me to the station. On foot is what this means. But we use walked to make it nice and short and easy to understand. She walked me to the station. In the second example sentence, will you walk me home? It's a request, meaning, will you please accompany me home on foot? So you're within walking distance. You can walk to your home. You're asking another person, will you please walk with me to my house? So to accompany someone on foot, we can use walk to do that. Third meaning for this is actually more of an advanced meaning. This meaning is to avoid, as in like to avoid criminal punishment. Let's look at some examples of this. The defendant walked, despite a lot of evidence. I don't think he'll walk. The judge is tough. So here, walk means avoiding punishment, but we use it in like legal situations. I think the reason is because when a criminal or someone who has been accused of criminal behavior is not convicted, meaning they're not guilty or they are allowed to be free, they are not taken to jail, they can walk out of the courthouse or they can walk out of the, prison or wherever they are being kept, wherever they are being held. They can walk. So we use the verb walk to mean avoiding punishment, but it's usually just used in criminal or legal situations. So this is a more advanced use of this verb. But to walk, like I don't think he'll walk means I don't think he'll be allowed to go free. So I don't think he'll get away. I don't think he'll avoid punishment. I don't think he'll walk. Now let's talk about a few variations on the verb walk. To walk on eggshells. To walk on eggshells. Super interesting. So to walk on eggshells means to exercise great caution. So in other words, be really, really careful, to be super careful. So the image, eggshells are very fragile. It's easy to break them. So to walk on eggshells means you have to be very, very careful. Otherwise, you'll break the eggshell. So to walk on eggshells means you have to be very careful. Let's look at some examples of when we might use this expression. My manager is in a really bad mood today. Everyone is walking on eggshells. I had to walk on eggshells at that dinner last night. So if you don't know this expression, walking on eggshells, you might think, like, what is this person talking about when you hear this expression? Like, everyone is walking on eggshells today? What? But it just means everyone is being really, really careful. Everyone is being really cautious. In the first example, my manager is in a bad mood. Everyone is walking on eggshells today means everyone is being very, very careful because the manager is in a bad mood and people don't want to make him or her unhappy. In the second example, I was walking on eggshells at dinner last night means I was being very careful at dinner last night. Maybe it was a high-pressure dinner situation. So walking on eggshells means being very careful. Okay, let's go to the second variation. So I prepared two variations that are very similar here. They are to walk into and to walk in on. So very similar. To walk into, as one word, into, to walk into, and to walk in on. Let's look at to walk into first. So to walk into means to crash into something when walking. So you're walking, and crash into something. Examples of this. I walked into a wall this morning. Have you ever walked into a glass door? Yes, I have. I've walked into a screen door as well too. Who has not? Who has not walked into a door? Seriously, I do it all the time. So it means you're walking and you, I hope, accidentally you crash into something as you're walking. Of course, if you want to upgrade this, you can say, I ran into a door. That means your speed is different. So walk into a door and run into a door. It's just the speed is different there, but you can change the motion verb if you like. But now let's take a look at to walk in on. So different, very different meaning actually. To walk in on. So to walk in on something means to enter a situation accidentally. It's usually something like kind of scandalous or kind of embarrassing. You walk in on something accidentally. Maybe you don't want to see or you're surprised to see that. So let's look at some fairly mild examples of this. First, she walked in on us gossiping. They walked in on us watching YouTube videos at the office. Dun, 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 you're watching YouTube. Okay, so to walk in on, past tense is my first example. She walked in on us gossiping. So what was the situation she walked in on accidentally? Us. So us meaning some group of people. We were gossiping and someone entered that situation accidentally. It was very uncomfortable. Oh no, we were gossiping. Maybe about that person. We don't know. But some kind of awkward or uncomfortable situation. She walked in on us gossiping. On us gossiping. In the second example sentence, they walked in on us watching YouTube videos at the office. So again, they walked in on us. In this case, we're watching YouTube videos in the office. We could, of course, change the sentence like, I walked in on my coworkers watching YouTube videos in the office. We could change that around. It means accidentally entering a situation that's a little bit uncomfortable in some way. So you can find many different examples of how this is used, but I'll leave that up to you. All right, so those are a few different ways, perhaps, for you to use the verb walk. I hope that it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, if you know of some other ways to use the verb walk, or if you just want to try to make an example sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section. Of course, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good stuff. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! Is that how you walk?
Always wake up late.
Oh, that's just running. Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb lead. Let's go. Let's look at the basic definition of this verb. The basic meaning of this verb is to control a group of people. Examples. I've been asked to lead the meeting today. Do you think he'll do a good job leading the company? Here are the conjugations of the verb. Present, lead, leads. Past, led. Past participle, led. Progressive, leading. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. Meaning 1. So the first additional meaning for today is to be first or to be winning, meaning to be in first place. Example, our team is leading by 10 points. At halftime, the Brazilian team led by 2 points. So 1 point here, so maybe you can see from the example sentences, this is commonly used in sports. So to talk about a team or a person who is winning at something, some kind of competition. And when you want to talk about the score or like the difference between the team winning or the person winning and the next person who is in second place or who is losing, we can use by as the preposition before the score or the time or whatever difference there is between the winner and the loser or the winner and the second place person. So in the first example sentence, I use the expression leading by 10 points. So that means our team is winning, is in the winning position by 10 points. So there's 10 points difference between the winning team and the losing team. We see the same thing in the second sentence. In the second sentence, we saw the Brazilian team led by 2 points. So at the halftime mark, the Brazilian team led by 2 points, meaning they were 2 points higher or they had 2 more points than the losing team or the second place team. So we can use the preposition by to explain the difference there. Let's go to the second meaning for this verb. The second meaning is to cause someone to do something, and it's often kind of in a negative way. Examples of this. He led me to believe I would make a lot of money on this deal. You led me to think you were interested in dating me. So in these examples, you can think of the verb lead as meaning caused here. And it's like you caused someone to believe something that is not true, or you caused some kind of action, but it was not based on like reliable information. It was somehow an untrue situation. So there's kind of the feeling of being, deceived. So there's kind of the feeling of being deceived here. So like you led me to believe, or you led me to think, or you led me to, I don't know, something else. Led me to believe, led me to think, led me to decide, I suppose, something like that. But the idea is that there's some deceit involved. There's some misinformation. It's on purpose too. So this is kind of a negative way to use this verb. And the reason that we use led instead of caused is because led sounds like the person who is giving the information or the object that is providing information like has somehow has control over the situation. There's intention included there. So led me to believe is stronger than caused me to believe, because led me to believe sounds like someone is actively making an attempt to change your point of view or to change your way of thinking. Let's go to the third meaning then. The third meaning for this verb is to show someone the way, often in front of a group or in front of someone else. So examples of this: she led us to the conference room. They led us out of the building. With this meaning, as you'll see in the fourth meaning we'll talk about in just a moment, we can use a series of prepositions. So we're talking about showing someone the way to something. Therefore, we're moving. So we can use prepositions of movement to explain that movement. So I said, like, she led us to the conference room. So meaning to a destination. We use the preposition to. Or they led us out of the building. So out of the building. So leaving a place. We could say into, they led us next to, toward. So we can use these prepositions of movement to talk about the way, so the direction in which someone leads us, so shows us the way to a location. Let's look at the fourth meaning. So the fourth meaning is to go towards something, to go towards something. So this means a person is not guiding, but rather it's like a path or a road, or there's some other kind of sign or symbol that's moving in a direction, or there's like some kind of indication of like movement in like a path or roadway. So examples of this. This highway leads to Los Angeles. A trail of crumbs led into the kitchen. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so here you can see too, even though it's not a person leading someone else, there's still some kind of movement suggested. So we use these same prepositions of movement to talk about the situation. So like a trail of crumbs led into the kitchen, meaning a trail of crumbs went from one area into the kitchen. So we can sort of see there's some movement going into the kitchen in this example sentence. Or this road leads toward Los Angeles, so in the direction of Los Angeles. So we can use these directional words along with lead in this case to show where something is going. Let's look at some variations of the verb lead. The first one is to lead someone on, to lead someone on. So to lead someone on means to cause someone to believe you're romantically interested in them. He led me on for 3 months. He just wanted information about my company. We see kind of negative situations or negative expressions along with to lead someone on. So leading someone on means you're behaving in a way that makes another person feel you're romantically attracted to them. However, you're not. So there's usually some other motivation. There's some other goal. He led me on for 3 months. His goal is actually to get information about the company. But he, in the sentence, makes the speaker think he is romantically attracted to the speaker. So that's sort of like a way of getting information that he wants. So he's not actually romantically attracted. He just wants this information and is using this person to get it. So we say to lead someone on, to make someone think they're romantically attracted, but they're actually not. Maybe they want some other benefit from you. The next variation is to lead with something. So to lead with something means to place like the most important information or the most interesting information first. So we use this a lot in like newspapers or news reports or magazines. So leading with something, leading with the most important information. Examples. The New York Times led with a story about the president. Tonight, the news is leading with a story about a terrible accident downtown. So in each of these, the implication, the idea is that the most important story in these example sentences is the first story. So in the first example, the New York Times is leading with a story about the president. So leading with means the New York Times thinks this is the most important story. It's about the president. They're starting their publication with a story about the president. In the second example sentence, it's about the news, so probably TV news. So the TV news is leading with a story about a terrible accident. In this case, that means they think that's the most important story or the most interesting story at that time. So to lead with something for a publication or a media outlet means to put the most interesting or important information first. Okay, so that's everything for this lesson. I hope that you picked up some new meanings of the verb lead and a few variations maybe. If you have any questions, if you know some other ways to use the verb lead, or if you just want to try to make a sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section. Of course, if you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good study resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! I will lead you to the verb lead. Leading. see that this is what I mean. So here, as you'll see also as do you think he'll Now, if you're wondering how to remember these words forever so that you can start speaking more and more, here's how. 1. Review them with our spaced repetition flashcards. Our flashcards will drill these words into your long-term memory. 2. Save the words to our word bank, your personal collection of words, where you can print out physical study sheets. And 3. Watch our looped vocabulary slideshows on repeat until you understand every word. You'll find these tools inside our learning program. Just click the link in the description to get them. Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb move. Let's look at the basic meaning of the verb move. So the basic definition of the verb move is to go to a different place or a different condition. Let's look at the conjugations of this verb. Present, move, moves. Past, moved. Past participle, moved. Progressive, moving. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. So the first additional meaning for today is to persuade or to prompt someone to do something. Some examples of this. We were moved to act when we saw the destruction after the disaster. The documentary moved me to volunteer in my community. So in both of these examples, we use the verb moved, in this case, to explain being prompted to do something. In the first example sentence, I said we were moved to act. Moved to act means like to take action, to do something because of a disaster. So in this case, the speaker saw like disaster, the horrible damage from a disaster, and the speaker and someone else were moved. They were persuaded or prompted to take action. So in the second example sentence, we see the same thing. The documentary moved me to volunteer in my community. So here we see the same pattern, moved plus the infinitive form, moved to act, moved to volunteer in my community. So in this case, I was moved to volunteer in my community because of a documentary. So the documentary prompted me or persuaded me to volunteer. So we can use move to mean like pushed us or persuaded us to do something. So meaning 2 is to activate emotions or feelings. Examples of this second meaning. The movie moved me to tears. We were so moved by your generosity. So here we're using moved to refer to an activation of our emotions. So in the first example sentence, the movie moved me to tears. So in this case, moved me to tears is like it moved me so much. It activated my emotions so much that I began to cry. So actually that's a common set expression, moved me to tears. So something was so like emotionally charged that I began to cry as a result. So in the second example sentence, we were so moved by your generosity, it means your generosity, so the listener, did something very generous, and that caused the speaker to feel strong emotions, or their emotions kind of were activated or stirred or roused. So in these example sentences, moved refers to strong emotional responses to something. The third meaning is to make a formal proposal for something. So we use move to suggest something. It's often used in like law or maybe in like legal proceedings, but we can use it as well in casual situations if we want to make the proposal seem more formal somehow. So examples. I moved to end this discussion. He moved to postpone the next meeting for a week. So here, in the first example sentence, I moved to end the discussion. It means I propose that we end the discussion. But to say I move sounds more formal, actually, kind of more legal a bit. In the second example sentence, he moved to postpone the next meeting for a week. We're seeing moved used to mean propose. Again, he proposed that we postpone the meeting, in other words. So propose is fine, but you could substitute that, like he proposed we postpone the meeting, or I propose we end this discussion. But move just has kind of a more legal sound to it. The fourth meaning I want to talk about in this episode is to change residence, or to change your house, in other words. Examples. I'm thinking about moving this summer. Have you ever moved to a new city? So here, move just means move your house, but we only use move. We don't say move apartment or move house. Maybe in British English, move house is used. But in American English, we just use move. I need to move, or I have to move, or I hate moving, for example. So just use move to mean changing your house. And usually from the context, from the discussion, we can understand which type of move is meant. It doesn't mean that you're taking your house and you're moving your house somewhere. It means that you are taking your body. So you are moving your body to a new residence, a new home, and going there. So to move. Let's talk about some variations of the verb to move. So the first variation is to move products. To move products. This means to sell things or to have transactions in something. Some examples. The sales team has been moving a lot of merchandise lately. We need to move a lot of inventory next month. So these example sentences mean sell something. So the sales team has been moving a lot of merchandise means the sales team has been selling a lot of things, has been like doing transactions of some kind. In the second example sentence, we need to move a lot of inventory next month means we need to sell a lot of things from our inventory. But we just use the verb move to kind of make that shorter. So instead of we need to sell a lot of products, we can say we need to move a lot of inventory instead. Those are a few new, maybe, meanings of the verb move. If you have any questions or if you want to try to make a sentence with this verb, please feel free to do so in the comment section. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and I'll see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode we're going to talk about the verb live. Let's go. The basic definition of the verb live is to be alive. To be alive. So like, I want to live. Or it lives. It lives. That was a horror movie. Conjugations of this verb. Present. Live. Lives. Past. Lived. Past participle. Lived. Progressive. Living. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. The first meaning is to spend your time in your life. Some examples of this. She lives to work. He lives to make delicious food. So in these sentences, we're seeing like the purpose of that person's life. What does that person do? How does that person spend the majority of their time in their life? In the first example sentence, she lives to work. So work is the thing she spends the majority of her time doing. She lives to do that thing. She lives in order to work. In the second example sentence, he lives to make delicious food. That's like the purpose of his life. That's how he spends his time in his life, making delicious food. He lives to do that thing. The second meaning I want to talk about is to share a space with someone else, like to share your residence with someone else. Examples. We've lived together for a year. She still lives with her parents. So in these example sentences, we've lived together for a year. The first one means we, meaning the speaker and someone else, have lived together, have shared a space together for 1 year. In the second example sentence, she still lives with her parents. We see that she, whoever she is, still shares a space for her home with her parents. In the first example sentence, we've lived together for a year. It could be the speaker and someone else. It could be the speaker and the listener. It just depends on who we is in that case. The third additional meaning is to remain in our memories or in our records. So examples of this. The musician's work will live forever. Our grandfather lives on in photos. So in these examples, we're seeing that some memory of a person or some memory of a person's work or maybe a historical event, whatever it is, it remains in memories, or it remains like there's some record of that thing. So that could mean like written records, it could mean photos, it could mean videos, whatever. So this refers to something that remains. We use this a lot after a person has died, actually. Or we could say maybe for people whose work, especially for artists, their work is going to live forever is another way we could say that, meaning it's going to remain forever. So someone like with a big impact, we might use this verb, live, and this meaning of this verb to talk about something they're doing or something that they're making. So the musician's work will live forever means the musician's work will remain in our memories and in our records forever. So like Bach, for example, or like Rachmaninoff. So composers are a great example of this, like classical, Baroque, Romantic music composers. Those are great examples. So before there was the internet, before photo and video, there was, written work, written pieces of music. So their work, their musical work, lives on in their compositions. So there's a record of the things that they did. And in the second example sentence, my grandfather lives on in photos, means my grandfather remains, or the image of my grandfather, our memories of our grandfather remain in photos. The first variation of this verb is the expression to live up to live up to. So this means to behave in accordance with something. Let's look at some examples. I'm not sure if I can live up to your expectations of me. He never lives up to his promises. So to live up to something is like to act in accordance with something else. So in the first example sentence, I'm not sure if I can live up to your expectations of me, means that the speaker is concerned he or she will not be able to act in accordance with the listener's expectation. So listener has some expectation for the speaker, and the speaker is worried that the speaker cannot meet that expectation. But we say, can't live up to your expectation in that case. In the second example sentence, he never lives up to his promises means he never fulfills his promises. He never acts in accordance with his promises. So he promises A, but he doesn't complete A. There's no like matching behavior there. He doesn't meet his promises. He doesn't fulfill. He doesn't live up to his promises. Second variation is to live with. To live with means like to tolerate or to stand or to deal with something. Some examples. How much of this bad behavior can you live with? If I put my family through a scandal, I don't think I would be able to live with myself. Okay, so we see here to live with something means like an ability to tolerate something. So in my first example, it's a question. How much of this bad behavior can you live with? So we use this verb to mean tolerate or like put up with. So put up with also we use in the same way as live with here. So how much of this are you going to allow to continue before you say something, for example? How much of this can you live with? Just like this behavior, someone else's bad behavior is there all the time living with you. So how much of it can you live with? Like how much? Like not very much. So maybe I can't live with this anymore. Stop it. Go away. I don't know. So that's one. In the second example sentence about a family scandal, so I used the expression, I don't think I would be able to live with myself. Live with myself actually means I don't think I would be able to tolerate myself because of my bad behavior. So if my family experienced a scandal because of something I did, I wouldn't be able to tolerate myself, meaning I would be really upset with myself. I would be unhappy. I would be disappointed in myself. We use the expression, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I hope that those are a few new ways that you can use the verb live. If you have any questions or comments or want to try to make a sentence with this verb, please feel free to do so in the comment section. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good stuff. Thanks for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb hold. Let's go. The basic definition of the verb hold is just to have in your hand, to have something. So like, hold my beer. Hold my beer. Or I want to hold your hand. Hold my beer, or I want to hold your hand, for example. So let's look at the conjugations for this verb. Present, hold, holds. Past, held. Past participle, held. Progressive, holding. So now let's talk about some additional meanings for this verb. The first additional meaning for this word is to have a position or some special distinction. So let's look at some examples of this. He held the world record for donut eating for 3 years. She holds the top position in the company. So in these situations, we see like a position, someone's job, someone's position, or some kind of special distinguishing mark, like a world record holder or a record holder. So he holds or she holds a position currently can refer to someone's job. So we can also use it for something that we had in the past, some special distinction we had in the past, like he held a world record. Or maybe for a present distinction, we can say she holds the world record for something. So profession, a job, a special kind of recognition. We can use the word hold to describe that. The second extra meaning, quite broadly, is to restrain, so like to hold something back. Some examples of this. Hold your fire. He has trouble holding his temper. The first example sentence was hold your fire. If you've ever watched a war movie or maybe a historical drama, some kind of film like that, you might have heard the expression hold your fire. So fire means shooting. So hold means restrain or stop from doing something. So hold your fire means stop shooting your gun. Hold your fire. So if you've ever seen a war movie, you might have heard this expression, hold your fire. In the second one, he has trouble holding his temper. So to hold your temper, one's temper is one's emotional control. So to hold your temper means to be able to control your emotions. So usually when we say temper, it means our angry emotions. So he has trouble holding his temper means it's difficult for him to control his angry emotions. Or it's difficult for him to control his anger. So hold your temper, control your anger. But it sounds a little less direct. The next meaning is to carry out like an event. So examples of this, the company is holding a conference tomorrow. We held an event at the concert hall last year. Okay, so in the first example sentence, we see the company is holding a conference tomorrow. So holding in the progressive tense refers to a future plan. The company is holding. In other words, the company is going to carry out some event tomorrow. The company is going to carry out a conference tomorrow. But instead of saying going to carry out, we can say the company is holding a conference tomorrow. So meaning an event is going to occur. In the second example sentence, we held an event at the concert hall last year. We see the past tense. We held an event, meaning we carried out an event. Some event happened there last year, but we can use hold, or in this case, the past tense version, held, to describe that quickly. Let's look at some variations on the use of this verb. The first variation is to hold one's breath. To hold one's breath means to keep air in your lungs. So like when you go swimming, for example, you hold your breath. So it's a short example of that, but to keep the air in your lungs. So not taking air in, not taking air out, that's to hold your breath. Examples, how long can you hold your breath? He held his breath until his face turned red. So we can use this expression to mean like keeping the air in our lungs. However, we also have a set expression, which is don't hold your breath. So don't hold your breath means don't wait for something to happen because it's going to take a long time. So for example, if you are hoping that you're going to get a huge raise and a big house like next year or something like that. You really, really, really want this big, I don't know, bonus or something like that. You might say to your colleague or your coworker, yeah, I really want this. I really want like this much more money. Your coworker might say to you, don't hold your breath, meaning it's going to take a long time. So the image in this situation is that if you hold your breath, you can only do it for a short period of time, a few seconds, maybe a minute or so. So don't hold your breath means The suggestion you made is going to take a long time. So you're going to hurt yourself or get in trouble if you expect it's going to happen quickly. So don't hold your breath. The next expression is to hold your horses or to hold one's horses. So this expression means to restrain or to keep in your enthusiasm. So it's like you're too excited. Calm down, in other words. Some examples. Hold your horses. There will be plenty of time for celebration when the project is finished. Whoa, hold your horses. We're not done yet. So in both of these example sentences, we see hold your horses, meaning there's too much enthusiasm. You need to slow down. So I guess horses is used here because horses are like animals that want to run quickly. They're like fast, have lots of energy. But to say hold your horses means keep them back, keep them restrained, but not literally horses. It means like your energy, your enthusiasm means keep it restrained for now. And oftentimes that just means because we're using the verb hold, it means restrain it. And then maybe later you can use that. It doesn't mean like stop your enthusiasm. It means just keep it back for now. So hold your horses, another common expression. So those are a few different uses of the verb hold. I hope that it was useful for you. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to try to make a sentence using this verb, please feel free to do so in the comment section. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com. Thanks for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Yeah, that's true. We use hold on the phone. I never explained that. Like when we want to, when we're on the phone with someone and we need to contact someone else, we can say, please hold. And we put the phone down. Thank you for holding. That's a very common one. Ooh! Ah! I lost the iPad. Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb lose. So let's get started. So the basic definition of this verb is to miss something from your possessions, or to miss something from its typical or its regular location. For example, I lost my keys. I always lose a sock in the laundry. So let's look at the conjugations of this verb. Present. Lose, loses. Past, lost. Past participle, lost. Progressive, losing. So now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. The first additional meaning of this is to suffer because of no longer having something. So examples of this, I lost my father in the war. She lost her arm in a terrible accident. So in both of these situations, there's a serious loss, there's serious suffering. In the first example, I lost my father. It means my father died in the war. In the second example, she lost her arm in a terrible accident. It means she was separated from her arm, her arm was so badly injured that she no longer had it as a result of the accident. So these are serious situations of suffering or serious problems. The second meaning is to fail to use something. So let's look at some examples. I lost so much money on this project. And you're gonna lose a lot of time if you don't work more efficiently. Okay, so in the first one, I lost so much money on this project, meaning I failed to use money effectively, or I failed to use my money in a good way in this project. I lost money as a result of this project. In the second example, you're gonna lose a lot of time. So in other words, you're not going to use your time efficiently. You're going to fail to use your time well, in other words. Meaning 3, let's go on to the third meaning. The third meaning is to fail to maintain something, like to fail to maintain your mental state, for example. Let's look. Examples. She lost her mind when she saw her bank account had been emptied. And he ran too fast and lost his breath. So the first one, she lost her mind. It doesn't mean like her head was separated from her body. It means she lost control of, she could not maintain her mental state, her mental condition, because something else happened. Like she lost her mind when she saw her bank account had been emptied. Like she went crazy. Oh my gosh, it was such a surprising situation. She lost her mind. She lost control. In the second example sentence, he lost his breath because of running. So he could not control his breathing, but we say lost my breath or he lost his breath. So that means he could not maintain his breathing. The fourth meaning is to get rid of something, to get rid of something. So we see this in examples like, you really need to lose some weight. Oh, and we lost our attackers by hiding under a bush. You really need to lose some weight. So meaning you need to get rid of some weight from your body. You need to remove weight from your body. In the second example, we lost our attackers means we were separated. We were able to separate ourselves. We were able to remove the attackers from us because we hid under a bush in this case. I don't know what the situation is. But either way, you're separating from something else. You're removing yourself from something else. Losing weight or losing your attackers in this case. Let's go on to some variations of this verb then. All right. First variation. The first variation is to lose one's lunch. To lose one's lunch. This is an expression we use that means to vomit, means to throw up, to lose your lunch. Examples of this. Ugh, I'm about to lose my lunch. And someone lost their lunch on the airplane. So in that second sentence, it doesn't mean that someone forgot lunch in their seat on the airplane. This is an expression that we use to mean someone vomited on an airplane. Someone lost their lunch on an airplane. But it sounds less disgusting to say lose your lunch. It's because the idea is you ate lunch and then it came back up and you lost it. It was separated from you. You lost your lunch. That's the idea. We don't say lost your breakfast. We don't say lost your dinner. We only say lunch. I don't know why, but that's the expression.
Oh, I lost my brunch.
Lost my brunch. Yeah, it's always lost my lunch. Always lost my lunch. So it means to vomit, to throw up. You. Okay. The last variation for this verb is to lose it. To lose it, where it is your emotional control. To lose it. So to lose it means to go crazy, to lose your emotional control. So examples of this. My mom lost it when I said I'd spent all her money. And the second example, my boss is gonna lose it when he finds out we didn't meet our goals for the month. Okay, so in these sentences, we see in the first one, my mom lost it means my mom lost her emotional control. She was no longer able to maintain her emotional control. So she lost it. So it is emotional control. In the second sentence, my boss is gonna lose it, meaning in the future. My boss is gonna go crazy in a bad way when he sees that we didn't meet our sales goals. So my boss is going to lose his emotional control. He's gonna lose it. So it's quite a casual expression that means to go crazy for a bad reason often. So those are a few ways to use the verb lose that maybe you didn't know before. If you have any questions or if you want to try to make a sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good stuff too. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! Don't lose focus on your studies! Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the verb stand. Let's go. The basic definition of the verb to stand is to support yourself on your feet. Examples. I am not standing. Don't stand in the street. Here are the conjugations of this verb. Present, stand, stands. Past, stood. Past participle, stood. Progressive, standing. Okay, now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. Meaning 1. The first meaning is to tolerate something that's negative or unpleasant. Examples. I can't stand the sound of her voice. He can't stand the smell of gasoline. So in these two examples, there's something negative or there's something unpleasant involved. In the first example sentence, it's the sound of her voice. So by saying, I can't stand the sound of her voice, it means I can't tolerate this negative experience that is the sound of her voice. So in other words, Her voice sounds unpleasant. Her voice is negative. I don't like it. I can't stand it. I can't tolerate it. In the second example sentence, which was, he can't stand the smell of gasoline, in that sentence, the smell of gasoline to him, to whoever he is in the sentence, is really unpleasant. And he can't tolerate it. He can't stand the smell. He can't tolerate the smell, but we use stand. I can't stand that thing. So something unpleasant. Let's go to meaning 2. Additional meaning 2. Okay. The next meaning is to be in or to put in a place. Examples. He's standing next to the tree. I stood the pictures against the wall. So in these examples, we use the verb stand with like an adverb or a preposition. So in the first example, I said he's standing. I used the progressive or the continuous standing. He's standing next to a tree, next to. So there's some like positioning word there. He's standing next to a tree. So him, here's the tree, next to one another. So we typically use some kind of preposition or like an adverb word there to describe the relationship. In the second example sentence, we saw the same thing. I stood the pictures against the wall. So here we're using the word against. So that shows the pictures were stood against. It looks like this. So if this is the wall and these are the pictures, I stood the pictures against the wall. So we could say the pictures, I leaned the pictures against the wall, I guess. But we also can say I stood the pictures against the wall. So stood is like, imagine you're standing on your 2 feet. Yes, but the pictures also maybe have like their feet, the bottom of the picture is on the ground, and we lean them, we stand them against the wall. Like we stand up the object so we can see the picture against the wall. So we'll use adverbs and prepositions with this meaning of the verb to stand. Meaning 3. Meaning 3 is to be at a certain height. Some examples of this. The tower stands over 400 feet tall. She stood 170 centimeters tall when she was a teenager. So you can probably hear in both of these sentences, I'm talking about height of an object or the height of a person. So in the first example sentence, I talked about a tower. So the tower was over 400 feet. So in the first example sentence, I said the tower stands over 400 feet tall. So I'm using stands in the present tense to refer to its like constant condition. So remember, we use present tense to talk about general facts. So the tower stands, it stands, and then I said over 400 feet tall. Over means more than, 400 feet is the height, and then tall we use to refer to the height of the object in general. So the tower stands over 400 feet tall. Same thing in the second sentence. She stood 170 centimeters tall when she was a teenager. So we're using the measurement, so 400 feet, 170 centimeters, we follow by tall. And all of that is preceded by stand, the verb stand. So she stood 170 centimeters tall when she was a teenager. That's past tense though. So we can use stand to refer to the height of someone or something. So meaning number 4 for this verb is to have an opinion, to have an opinion. Let's look at some examples. Where do you stand on gun control? I don't know where she stands regarding this issue. So this use of the verb stand is something we see a lot in like politics, in the news, perhaps in policy debates or policy discussions. We use this kind of stand to talk about an opinion we have about a specific topic. So we'll follow the verb stand with on, or perhaps regarding, or maybe with regard to. So in my first example sentence, I talked about gun control as the topic. I said, where do you stand on gun control? So where do you stand on gun control? On in this sentence really means about, but we don't use about after the verb stand. We don't say, where do you stand about gun control? That's not an expression we use. Instead, we use on. Where do you stand on gun control? And also, we typically use an expression like this in very common or very well-known topics. So if you're debating something that's very, very specific, it's probably not a good idea to use stand in that case. We use it for very, very broad topics that most people are familiar with and that most people have an opinion about. So gun control could be one example, or maybe where do you stand on environmental issues, for example. Something like that, a very general, well-known topic. In the second sentence, we see the same thing. I don't know where she stands regarding this issue. So regarding is like a formal word meaning about. Again, we don't use about here, but regarding is okay to use. So the same thing as we saw in the first example sentence, we're introducing like a topic for discussion that is well known in that condition, in that state. Now let's look at some variations with the verb stand. The first one is to stand up for oneself, or to stand up for yourself. This means to defend yourself against attacks, usually verbal attacks. A verbal attack is an attack with words, someone shouting or an argument. Examples of this. You should stand up for yourself if you know you're right. The young girl stood up for herself. I want to introduce one that's also very similar to this, which is to stand up against, to stand up against. That means to defend yourself against a specific enemy or a specific like kind of attacker. It can be verbal again. So examples of this. I stood up against the scary manager. Or he stood up against his greedy landlord. So in these examples where we're standing up to someone else or standing up against something else, we're defending ourselves against some kind of negative thing outside us. So like he stood up to his greedy landlord, meaning he defended himself against this person who's trying to, I don't know, take advantage of him or something. Or I stood up to the scary manager. So that means the manager, there's some kind of negative force there with the manager, but I defended myself against that. So we can say to stand up against that specific person or that specific enemy, or we can say to stand up for yourself. So for introduces like the reason, the thing we are defending. So I stood up for myself. We can also replace that. Like I stood up for my mom. I stood up for my younger brother at school. So when you're defending someone else, you can use that expression. The next variation is to stand out. To stand out. This means to be noticeable, to be very noticeable. Examples. Whoa, that guy's hair really stands out. This candidate really stood out from all the other applicants. So to stand out meaning to be very noticeable. In these example sentences, maybe this guy has just big hair and we can really see him like easily. We can say, whoa, that guy's hair stands out. Or maybe he has like bright neon yellow hair or something. So something that's very noticeable about a person, we can say, whoa, that person really stands out, like physically. We can see them really, really well. We have that, but we can also use the expression to stand out to talk about a person's skill sets or their abilities, like when you're reviewing job applications, for example. Like, wow, this person has a really amazing skill set. He or she really stands out from the competition, or she really stands out from the other applicants, for example. So you can talk about being able to physically notice someone really well, or you can talk about noticing someone for their skills and their abilities with the verb to stand out. Great. All right. So those are a few maybe new meanings of the verb stand and some variations for you. Of course, if you know of other ways to use the verb stand, or if you want to try to make an example sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and come check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good resources for your studies. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb keep. Let's get started. The basic definition of the verb keep is to have in possession. So like to own something or to hold something is to keep. Here are the conjugations for this verb. Present tense, keep, keeps. Past tense, kept. Past participle tense, kept. Progressive tense, keeping. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. The first additional meaning for this lesson is to stop something from going somewhere. This can mean to stop a person, like from leaving or from going to another place, or to stop an object from moving or from going somewhere. Let's look at some examples. Is our manager at the office? Can you keep her there for 10 more minutes? Okay, next one. Keep that car inside the gates. So don't let it go outside the gates. Keep it inside the gates. Meaning number 2, additional meaning number 2 for the verb keep. To cause to remain in a condition or to cause to remain in a situation. Let's look at some examples. Sorry to keep you waiting. So here, sorry to keep, sorry to make you stay in the waiting condition, in the waiting situation. Sorry to keep you waiting. The boss has kept us wondering about changes for months. That was past participle. The boss has kept us wondering. So we remain in the state of wondering here. The boss has kept us wondering for months. So has caused us to wonder continuously for a period of months is the meaning of this sentence. Meaning number 3 for this lesson is just to stay or to continue something. So this is a very broad example. Let's look at a couple examples. First, keep your head. Keep your head sounds really strange, right? So to keep your head doesn't mean like hold on to your head. But the expression keep your head means control your emotions. So here, your head doesn't refer to your head as the object necessarily. It refers to your emotions. So controlling your emotions. To keep your head means like to continue your controlled emotional state. So if someone is getting maybe too excited or they're getting really angry, you can say, keep your head. Let's look at another example though. Keep in your lane. Keep in your lane. So it's like, imagine you're driving. So a lane is the lines on the road. Those are the lines on the road that people can drive cars in. So keep in your lane means stay in your lane. In other words, continue in your lane. We say keep, but it doesn't mean hold. It means continue in your lane. So if someone else, if maybe the person you're driving with is trying to move to a different lane, you can say keep in your lane, just stay there. So it means stay. Another example might be keep quiet. Keep quiet means stay quiet or continue being quiet. But we just say keep quiet to mean continue that state. Meaning number 4 of keep is to persist in a behavior. So to persist means to do something many, many times, to continue doing something many times. In this case, a behavior. A behavior is repeating. So let's look at some examples. This guy keeps calling me. So a guy, in this case, keeps calling my phone. He keeps calling me. So repeatedly, this person is calling me repeatedly. He keeps calling me. Another example. We kept sending messages until they responded. We kept sending messages until they responded. So meaning we repeatedly sent messages to someone or maybe to a company until we received a response. So when we received a response, we stopped sending messages. We kept sending messages until they responded. Let's go on to some variations of the verb keep. The first variation is to keep an eye on someone. To keep an eye on someone. This expression means to watch, like to watch someone closely often too. Some examples. Yeah, she's keeping an eye on me. She always keeps an eye on the screen. Our boss keeps an eye on our work. Example, keep an eye on him. He's up to something. If someone says, keep an eye on him, or like, keep an eye on her, with that kind of suspicious intonation, this is kind of a negative expression, like, that person is suspicious, so watch that person. So keep an eye on him. But if you say it with an upward intonation, kind of happy, like, whoa, keep an eye on him, he's doing exciting things. That means like you should watch that person and expect something positive. Like we have positive expectations for that person. So this is an important phrase to listen to the intonation. Okay, next example of that though. I'm keeping my eye on you. I'm keeping my eye on you. So again, this is an expression where intonation is important. I'm keeping my eye on you and I'm keeping my eye on you have very different meanings. So I'm keeping my eye on you with that downward intonation sounds suspicious. I'm suspicious of you. I'm keeping my eye on you. If, however, we emphasize you with that kind of upward intonation in the sentence, I'm keeping my eye on you, it sounds like I'm expecting good things from you. I'm going to watch you with positive expectations. The next variation is to keep one's eyes open, to keep my eyes open, to keep your eyes open. So to keep your eyes open, I use this actually a lot in like live streams, I think. I say like keep your eyes open for that or like keep an eye out for that. So actually you can use keep your eyes open or keep an eye out. It's sort of a weird expression. So let's start with keep your eyes open. So plural eyes, two eyes. Keep your eyes open, usually for a thing. Keep your eyes open for new ideas. Or I'll be keeping my eyes open for the exciting announcement. So that means I will be watching for an announcement. Or please watch for new ideas in the first example sentence. So keep your eyes open means watch for something. Watch for something. The expression keep an eye out for means the same thing, but we use the singular eye. So keep an eye out for new ideas. Keep an eye out for an exciting announcement. We can use either the singular or the plural, I or eyes. So, did you learn a little bit more about the word keep? I hope so. If you have some other meanings or if you know some other variations, have any questions, or if you want to try to make an example sentence, please feel free to do so in the comment section. Of course, if you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel, and you can check us out for more good resources at EnglishClass101.com. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb let. Let's go! The basic definition of the verb let is to allow or to permit something. So allow or permit. The conjugations of this verb. Present tense, let, lets. Past tense, let. Past participle tense, let. Progressive tense, letting. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of the verb let. The first additional meaning of this verb for this lesson is to allow to enter or leave a situation. So let's look at some examples. Please let us in. It's cold. And when talking to a police officer, for example, the police might say, I'll let you go with a warning. I'll let you go. So in the first example, please let us in. Please let us in means please allow us to enter. Allow us to enter. It's cold outside, so allow us to enter a building. In the second example, the police officer says, I'll let you go with a warning. I'll let you go with a warning means I'll allow you to leave, but I'll give you a warning, not a ticket. So to allow to enter or to leave something. The next additional meaning for this lesson is used as an imperative. So imperative, it's like to propose something or to request something. So for example, let us see, or let us consider these options. So here I'm not using the contracted let's see or let's consider. It sounds more formal to use let us see or let us consider. But these are very common ways to make a request or to make a proposal to a group of people. Like, let's see what he does. Let us see. It's like, this is my proposal. I request we see something. I request we consider something. Let us see. Let us consider these options. The next additional meaning comes from British English. We do not use this in American English, but to let can mean to rent a room, to rent a room. So again, we do not use this in American English, but this is common in British English, to let, to let. In a sentence, he let a room to a young woman from another city. To let a room. Another one, I'm letting a room from a wealthy couple. Let's talk about some variations of the verb let. First one, to let go, to let go. Actually, there are a few meanings of to let go. I'll talk about two of them here. One means to dismiss someone from a job. To dismiss someone means to fire someone from their job, from their employment. Examples. Management decided to let half of us go this month. So let half of us go. Half of us means half of the employees go. So let go is split by the people affected by the verb. So management decided to let half of us go this month. Okay, another example. I'm sorry, but we have to let you go. I'm sorry, but we have to let you go. Again, the phrasal verb let go is separated by the person affected by the action. Let you go. In other words, I'm sorry, we have to fire you. I'm sorry, we have to dismiss you from your employment. Okay, so to let go is another expression to mean to remove someone from their job. It is a nicer way. It's a nicer way to say you're fired, to let someone go. To go on to the second meaning of to let go, we use this quite broadly to mean to relax or to release something. So it can mean to release stress, for example. In a sentence, try to let go of your stress. Try to let go. So try to release your stress. Let it go. Oh, God. Oh, God. Everybody knows. Okay. Another example, let go of me. Let go of me. So you can use this if someone is holding you for some reason. So let go of me means release me. So let go of me, or like let go of her. Let go of him means release, or release her, release him. This is similar to the next variation of let, which is let out, to let out. We use the word let out to mean to free something, to release something. Usually though, something has been confined, something has been kept. An example of this is, let me out of this room. Let me out of this room. So let and out are separated by me. So I am the person affected here. I am asking to be released from the room. Let me out of this room. Another example, she let out a terrifying scream. She let out a terrifying scream. So maybe inside her, there was this frightened emotion. She felt scared, so she released that emotion with a scream. So she let out a terrifying scream. It was freed from her body. The next variation is to let someone have it, to let someone have it. So this means to attack someone either physically or verbally. Verbally means attacking someone with words, like to have an argument. So to physically or verbally attack someone. In a sentence, my boss let me have it this morning. I made a huge mistake this week. So in this sentence, my boss let me have it probably means my boss shouted at me. So my boss attacked me verbally. There's a very low chance that someone's boss will physically attack them at work. I don't know what it's like in your company, but in our company, it's probably not that meaning. So in most cases, like my mother let me have it. I totally wrecked the car, for example. It's like I was attacked verbally by someone. So my boss let me have it this morning. I made a mistake. So in another example sentence, did you see that fight? The smaller guy really let the bigger guy have it. So here I said the smaller guy really let the bigger guy have it. So again, in this example, the person affected by the action, the person receiving the attack, in this case, the bigger guy, is the one who is inserted into the verb phrase. So the smaller guy really let the bigger guy have it. So the bigger guy was the one who was attacked in this case. So to let someone have it means to attack someone with words or with physical force. I hope that helped you learn a little bit more about the verb let. If you have any questions, if you know some other meanings, if you have some other variations you want to mention, please feel free to leave them in the comments along with any questions you might have. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good stuff. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs. We'll see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the verb help. The basic definition of the verb help is to assist or to aid. Let's look at the conjugations of this verb. Present tense, help, helps. Past tense, helped. Past participle tense, helped. Progressive tense, helping. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. The first additional meaning, to make something nicer or to make something more pleasant, to make an experience better somehow. Examples of this, like, that massage really helped my backache. Another example, I think it'll help if you restart your computer. So in each of these sentences, we use the verb help to show that something, some situation or some behavior caused another situation to become better or improved, more pleasant. So in the first example, a massage improved my back. So it really helped my backache, means like my backache became more bearable. It's not so bad now. In the second example sentence, the speaker thinks that maybe restarting the computer will improve the computer's performance, will make the performance better. So we use help in this way. The second meaning is to avoid something. So let's look at some examples. I'm sorry you fell down. I can't help laughing. I can't help laughing. I know, right? I can't help laughing. It means I can't avoid laughing. It's just not possible. I can't avoid laughing. It just comes out. I can't help laughing. Another example. I can't help wondering, what's the company going to do next? So I can't avoid wondering. I can't stop myself from wondering, what is the company going to do next? The third meaning of this verb is to serve, as in to serve food or drink. So let's first look at some examples of this, and then we'll explain. Please help yourself to anything you'd like. Guests may help themselves at the buffet. So with this meaning of help, it means like to serve, to serve. So we often use like guests may serve themselves. So guests may help themselves. We use help themselves as in like assist yourself in getting food or aid yourself in getting food. In other words, someone else is not going to do it for you. So please help yourself. Guests may help themselves to food. So it means serve yourself. It's typically used in that way. Help yourself. Guests may serve themselves. All right, the fourth meaning for this lesson is to take, but without permission. So taking something without permission. Let's look at the examples first. I'll just help myself to this jar of cookies. She helped herself to all the money in her mother's wallet. So here we kind of see it as like we're assisting ourselves or we're aiding ourselves, I suppose, as in the previous example with food and drink. However, in this case, it means to do those things without permission. When using it to refer to like serving food or drink, it's like there's permission to do that. Like help yourself. That's permission to take food and to take drink. With this meaning of help, however, it means there's no permission. So it's often used with a reflexive pronoun. She helped herself. He helped himself to something. So this is a small grammar point here, actually. The subject of the sentence and the receiver of the effect of the action are the same person. So she helped herself. So helped is used reflexively here. So she, the subject of the sentence, the person doing the action, is also the receiver of the action. She helped herself to the money in her mother's wallet. You'll also see she helped herself to. To is used before the noun phrase here. She helped herself to the money in her mother's wallet, or all the money in her mother's wallet. In the first example sentence, I'll just help myself to this jar of cookies. We use to before the noun or the noun phrase that we are taking or using without permission. Let's continue on to some variations of the verb help. The first one is so help me, or so help me God is often used. So help me God. We use this expression to mean believe it or not. Believe it or not, usually I'll do something or something is going to happen. Some examples of this. So help me God, I am gonna get that job. So believe it or not, I am gonna get that job. So like with everything in my power, whether you believe me or not, I'm going to get that job. It's a confident expression. Another one, I am gonna open my own restaurant, so help me God. So whether you believe or not, this is my plan. I'm going to do this. This is my intention. We started talking about the next variation a little bit when I said the word help can be used to mean avoid. I said, I can't help laughing. I can't help wondering. There's a variation of this one, which is can't help but. Can't help but verb. So we use can't help but to also mean avoid. Can't help but means cannot avoid or cannot refrain from, cannot stop from doing something. So examples of this. I can't help but cry when I see this movie. He can't help but dance when he hears that song. So it means this, and in these example sentences, it's not possible not to do that action. It's not possible not to verb. So I can't help but cry means I can't avoid crying, in other words. We can use the pattern introduced earlier in this episode. I can't help crying when I watch this movie. Both are fine to use. Just note the grammar is a little different. I can't help but cry, or I can't help crying. In another example sentence, he can't help but dance. He can't help dancing. So the grammar changes a little bit, but the basic meaning remains the same. Actually, both of these sentences are correct and they maintain the same meaning, so it's up to you to decide which you want to use. All right, so I hope that helps you understand the word help a little more. If there are any other variations or any other meanings you know of, please feel free to let us know in the comments, along with any example sentences or any questions you might have. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Help us out by subscribing to us on this channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and I'll see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb show. Let's begin. Let's talk about the basic definition of show. So the basic definition of show is to cause or to allow something to be seen. So to cause something to be seen or to let something be seen. So this is kind of the basic use of this verb. Let's look at the conjugations then. Present tense, show, shows. Past tense, showed. Past participle tense, shown. Progressive tense, showing. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of the verb show. Meaning 1 is to reveal through your behavior or through your nature. So your nature means just the way you are, to reveal something. Examples of this, of revealing something through behavior. Her kindness shows her good heart. So her actions, her kind actions, shows is evidence of, reveals her good heart. Another example, they showed themselves to be pure evil. They revealed themselves through something they did to be pure evil. The second additional meaning for this lesson is like to give, as is appropriate. So like to give something. Usually like this is not an object. We don't use this to mean like giving someone an object, but rather giving someone like a conceptual thing. So let's look at some examples of this. show no mercy. Show no mercy. So this means give someone else no mercy. So mercy is like kindness, like don't give in to someone else. No mercy. So it means be tough, show no mercy. So maybe to like a fighter, like in the fight, show no mercy to your enemy. So show no mercy means give them no kindness. In other words, show no mercy. Another one, show some respect. Show some respect. So meaning give someone else your respect. Show someone that you respect them. Show some respect. So that means give people respect. It's appropriate, as is appropriate. So you might hear this, like if you're speaking to a person higher up than you, show some respect to your boss. Show some respect to your grandfather, maybe. Meaning three, a very common meaning is to teach or to instruct. To teach or to instruct. This is a very common one that I hear lots of people make mistakes with. They use the verb teach, but in English, it's better to use show. Let's look at some examples. Can you show me how to do this? Can you show me how to do this? In this way, show actually means teach. In other words, can you teach me how to do this? But it's more common that we say show instead of teach. Another example. My coworker showed me how to use the new software. So my coworker showed me how means my coworker taught me how to use the new software. Finally, meaning for this lesson is to exhibit something like artistic work. Examples. I'm showing some pieces at an art gallery this weekend. So I'm showing means we're using it in the progressive tense. I'm showing, I plan to show some things at an art gallery this weekend. Okay, second example sentence, have you ever shown your work? Have you ever shown your work means have you ever exhibited your work, like in a gallery somewhere? Have you ever shown your work? So shared your work in like a professional setting. Now, let's move on to some variations of the verb show. To show up is the first variation. There are actually two meanings I want to talk about in this lesson, to show up. One means to arrive somewhere. So some example sentences of show up. He hasn't shown up to work today, meaning he has not yet come to work. He hasn't shown up to work today. Another one, they never show up on time. So they never arrive on time. The second meaning of show up is to make someone else look bad or to make someone feel embarrassed, to show someone up, Examples of this. I think you showed up the boss in that meeting. So to show up means you made the boss look bad, or maybe you embarrassed the boss. You showed up the boss, or you showed the boss up. Both are okay to use. Another example of this, quit trying to show me up. Quit trying to show me up. So in other words, quit trying to do something better than me and make me look bad. So show up has two meanings. The second variation is to show your cards or to show one's cards. To show your cards or to show one's cards has two meanings, one of which is the same as the basic meaning we introduced at the beginning of this lesson, like to show someone else the cards you are holding if you're playing a card game. So like if you have a 2 and a 4 and a 6 or whatever, you cause your cards to be seen by someone else. However, there's another meaning of show your cards. To show your cards means to reveal your plan for something. So let's look at some examples of this. He showed his cards when he quit the company. So in other words, his plan was revealed. He revealed his plan when he quit the company. He decided to stop working there. His plan was revealed through his actions. Another example, we shouldn't show our cards too soon. Our competitors might jump on the opportunity. So we shouldn't show our cards too soon, meaning we shouldn't reveal our plan too soon because our competitors might jump or might take the opportunity. So those are a few meanings of the verb show, quite different from just allowing something to be seen. There are many different uses of the verb show. If you have any questions or you know some other meanings, please show them to your classmates and show them to us in the comment section for sure. Of course, if you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and I will see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to talk about the verb hear. Let's get started. The basic definition of the verb hear is to perceive with the ear, or to get information with your ears. Okay, example sentences of this first part. Can you hear me now? I heard you singing. Let's look at the different conjugations for this verb. Present, hear, hears. Past, heard. Past participle, heard. Progressive, hearing. Now let's talk about some different meanings of this verb. The first meaning is to listen carefully to something or to give your attention to something. Examples. Hear me out. Why don't you hear what he has to say? So in the first sentence, hear me out, that's kind of a set expression we use. Hear me out means please listen to me, or please listen carefully to my idea, to my proposal. Please listen carefully to what I'm going to say. Hear me out. So it's kind of like you're requesting someone else's attention there. In the second example, why don't you hear what he has to say? So yes, we're using our ears to listen, sure, but why don't you hear what he has to say also suggests you should give your attention to that person. So why don't you hear what he has to say? Yes, listen and give your attention to. So listen carefully to someone. So we can use hear to have this nuance. The second additional meaning for today is to receive communication. Examples. Have you heard from him lately? I've been hearing a lot about next week's meeting. So this meaning of the verb hear is like to receive communication. So this can mean receiving communication with your ears, but it can also mean written communication. So in the first example, have you heard from him lately? That can mean like with your ears, like receiving a phone call from someone, but it can also refer to receiving a letter, receiving an email, receiving some kind of communication. Have you heard from him lately? In the second example, I use the progressive tense. I've been hearing a lot about next week's meeting. So here the word hear is used in the progressive tense. I've been hearing a lot. So that means maybe over the last few days or over the last few weeks, the speaker has been receiving information about the next week's meeting. So maybe, again, that's information they received with their ears, but it could also be written information, written communication about next week's meeting. So hearing a lot, even though the verb hear is used, it can also mean written communication. The third meaning for this lesson is to consider an idea, but this is used in the negative form. So examples of this. You want to pay for dinner? I won't hear of it. I asked my boss for a raise, but my boss wouldn't hear of it. So we have this expression that's hear of it, where it refers to some idea for consideration. So in the first sentence, the speaker says, you want to pay for dinner? So that's the idea. You want to pay for dinner? And then I won't hear of it, meaning I won't consider that idea. In the second example sentence, I asked my boss for a raise, but he wouldn't hear of it. Hear of it, in that case, refers back to asking my boss for a raise. So we use this in the negative. He wouldn't hear of it. I won't hear of it. So this is, like I said, used in the negative form. So to mean I'm not going to consider that thing. So let's go to a few variations of this verb. The first variation is the expression hear, 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 hear. This is kind of an old-fashioned expression that we use to express agreement. Examples. A policy change? Hear, hear. Free ice cream on Fridays? Hear, hear. So these examples are kind of modern day examples, and so it sounds a little bit strange to use hear, hear to express your agreement. However, you might hear this in movies or maybe in books, in literature, although it's not used so much in everyday speech. The second variation that I want to introduce is hear a case, to hear a case. This is an expression that's used in law, in legal proceedings. So to hear a case means to give attention to someone's legal discussion, like to give your attention to like a legal argument. So examples of this. The court wouldn't hear our case. The judge is hearing the case tomorrow. So both of these examples are legal examples. The court wouldn't hear our case. So past tense here, wouldn't hear our case. So it's a legal situation. This means the court, so the court meaning the court system. So judges, depending on your country, I don't know, the court or a judge or lawyers or whoever is involved in the court system wouldn't hear, meaning would not give attention to our legal discussion, to our disagreement. The court wouldn't hear our case. The second example sentence, the judge is hearing the case tomorrow, means that tomorrow is the planned day for the judge. A judge is the person who presides over, so they kind of manage the court. They are in charge of making the decisions regarding legal disagreements. Saying the judge is hearing the case tomorrow means tomorrow the judge is going to listen to our legal disagreement. All right, so those are a few maybe new ways to use the verb hear. If you have any questions or if you have any comments or if you want to try to make a sentence using the verb hear, please feel free to do so in the comments section. Of course, if you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some more study resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again next time. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb see. So let's get started. So the basic definition of see is to perceive with your eyes. So this really means to use your eyes to get information. You use your eyes to look at things, to maybe understand things, to gain knowledge by looking at things. By using your eyes, focusing your eyes on things, you can learn things or gain information, gain knowledge. So this is to perceive. But the basic definition, though, is just to perceive with your eyes, to use your eyes to perceive, to gain information, to gain knowledge. Okay, let's see the conjugations for the verb see. See, sees. Saw, seen, seeing. Let's talk about a few additional meanings of the verb see. First one. To form a mental picture of. To form a mental picture of means to use your mind to create an image. So see has the meaning of creating an image in your mind. For example, I can see my childhood home clearly. It was one story and had a big yard. What do you see when you close your eyes? So in these example sentences, we're not actually using our eyes to see something. In this use of the word see, we are imagining it, and in our minds, we are making a picture. So we're not actually using our eyes to see these items. Instead, maybe they are things we saw in the past and we are imagining them mentally. We are creating a mental image of something. So when I say, I can see my house clearly, my childhood house, it means in my mind, I can form a clear image of the house in my mind. In the question, what do you see? It means when you close your eyes, what's the mental image that appears in your mind? So see is used to create mental images, to refer to creating mental images here. Next is to examine or to watch. So in this use of the verb see, there's sort of the nuance of an expectation. We want to use our eyes to watch something as it changes, or to examine a change as it happens, to examine a behavior. Let's see how the team does in today's match. I can't wait to see what the neighbors do when they realize we bought a pool. In the example of let's see how the team does in today's match, we are talking about using our eyes, our actual eyes, perhaps, if we are actually watching the match. If we go to the game or we see the match on TV, perhaps we are using our eyes. However, if we don't go to the match and we read the score from the game, or we hear on the radio something about the game, or we hear the results of the game, we can still use the verb see. See has this nuance of examining something. So we're expecting some result. So let's see, in this case, doesn't only mean using your eyes to examine. It can mean to examine maybe the results of the results of something, to examine the outcome of something. In the second example sentence, let's see how the neighbors react. We see the same thing. So it's the same sort of nuance. We are expecting a reaction. We are going to watch for a reaction from the neighbors when they realize we bought a pool. So we want to examine their reaction. We want to examine an outcome. We can use the verb see, though maybe we use our ears. Like if the neighbor says, "Oh my gosh, they bought a pool." That's sort of examining. You're waiting for a reaction there. We can still use the verb let's see, the expression let's see, to talk about that. So let's see what happens next, for example. Next one. To make sure, to make sure. Please see that this task is finished. He saw that all the arrangements had been made. In these sentences, the verb see is used to mean make sure, or to confirm something, to ensure something. In the first one, please see that this task is finished, we could replace the verb see with make sure. Please make sure that this task is finished. So that's a very clear sentence. Please see is just a shortened way of saying make sure. Please see that this task is finished. Please ensure that this task is finished. We can replace the verb here. The second example sentence is the same. He saw that all the arrangements had been made. So he made sure that all the arrangements had been made. In these example sentences, see is replacing the expression make sure or ensure. So we can use see to mean the same thing. It's just a shorter way of saying make sure. Next, to find acceptable or attractive. What do you see in him? What do you see in her? I don't understand what you see in this restaurant. It's terrible. What are the qualities you perceive in that person, or the qualities that you can detect in that situation? What are the good points you identify there? We can use the word see to sort of communicate that quickly and easily. So what do you see in him? What do you see in her? Is a much shorter way of saying, what do you find attractive about him or her? What do you find appealing about him or her? Or what characteristics of that person attract you to that person? Saying, what do you see in him? What do you see in her? Is a much shorter way of saying, what qualities do you find attractive in that person? The same thing in the restaurant example. I don't understand what you see in this restaurant means I don't understand what it is that you like about this restaurant. I think it's bad. So instead, we shorten it to I don't understand what you see in this restaurant. So see means finding something attractive or interesting or appealing in some way. Now let's talk about some variations, so some slight changes or some additions to the verb see that change the meaning. First is see through. See through. See through means to understand the true nature of something, to understand the real characteristics of something. He saw through my attempts to work with him and asked me on a date. My boss saw through my lie and scolded me for faking sickness. So here, we see the use in the past tense in the first example sentence. He saw through my attempts to work with him, meaning he saw the true nature of what I was doing. So he saw through my attempts to work with him and asked me on a date. So in this situation, maybe the speaker, was trying to spend time with the he in this situation and was asking maybe to work together a lot. But he, in the situation, saw to the true nature of the speaker's request, saw the true characteristics or the actual desire there, and asked the speaker on a date. So in this sentence, we understand that there was a different motivation, so something below the surface of the initial action that was happening. So the other person in the situation understood the other motivation, the motivation below the surface motivation. And so we use saw through or see through to communicate that. So he saw through my attempts to work with him, and he understood there was something else I wanted to do. In the second example sentence, my boss saw through my lie and scolded me for faking sickness. So again, we see in past tense, my boss saw through my lie. So saw that I was lying, in other words, saw through my lie. So saw the true character of my lie, saw the true nature of my statement, and scolded me. So my boss understood I lied and scolded me for faking sickness. So I got in trouble because I was faking an illness, faking sickness. My boss saw through my behavior, saw the true character, or understood the true nature of my statement. Next is see eye to eye, see eye to eye. This means to have a common viewpoint or to agree. We don't see eye to eye most of the time. I'm glad we see eye to eye about this. So maybe this one is an easy one to visualize. So to see eye to eye with someone else means you agree with them, you share a viewpoint with them. So you can kind of imagine maybe two people standing across from one another, and if they see eye to eye, maybe they match, their line of sight matches, much in the way that their viewpoints or their opinions match. Exactly, exactly. So they have kind of the same viewpoint. They can see eye to eye. So their eyesight maybe matches, their opinions match. So to see eye to eye, we can say, I'm glad we see eye to eye about this, meaning I'm happy we agree about this. Or in a negative, we don't see eye to eye most of the time, means we don't agree most of the time, or we have different opinions most of the time. All right, so I hope that this video helped you level up your knowledge of the verb see a little bit. If you have any questions or comments, or if you know another way of using the verb see, let us know in the comment section below the video. Thanks very much for watching. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for more good stuff. Thanks for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. We'll see you again soon. We end every video on this channel almost with see you again soon. But of course, I don't actually see you. You see me. We imagine you. We form mental images in our minds of all of you watching in the camera there. All those hundreds of thousands of you guys. That's kind of terrifying. See? That was fun. Do it now. Have you ever thought about how much you think about thinking? Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb think. So let's get started. The basic definition of think is to have in the mind. So something you can keep in your mind, like an idea or an image. Something you keep in your head, something in your mind, something in your brain. So to keep in the mind is think, to think. This is the basic definition of think. So let's look at the conjugations of the verb think. Present tense, think, thinks. Past tense, thought. Past participle, thought. Progressive or continuous tense, thinking. Think, thinks. Thought, thought, thinking. Okay, let's look at some additional meanings of the verb think. First is to consider or to reflect on or to ponder. It means consider something carefully or spend time considering something. So ponder means to think for a long time or to think hard about something. So consider carefully, reflect on. Examples. Can I have a day to think about this? He's thinking about what to do next. So in these example sentences, can I have a day to think about this? Taking one day to reflect on something, like before you make a decision, is a pretty common thing to do before like a big decision. So can I have a day to think about this means, can I have a day to consider this carefully? Or can I have a day to ponder this? In the second example sentence, he's thinking about what to do next means he's considering carefully his next step. He's considering carefully what he should do next. So thinking is used in the progressive tense here to show that he is currently, at this time, considering something carefully. But to consider carefully, we can make shorter and use the verb thinking. He's thinking about what to do next. Okay. Next is to create something by thinking, or to create something by considering. We usually use this with the word up after the verb think. We thought up so many crazy party ideas in college. She thought up a plan for product promotion. So both of these example sentences mean to create something by considering it in your mind. So in the first example sentence, we thought up crazy ideas for parties in college, means we designed something using our brains. We considered something and created an idea. We created something by thinking. So to think up, blah, blah, blah. So we thought up crazy party ideas. So we designed crazy party ideas by thinking about them, by considering things in our minds. In the second example sentence, we see the same meaning but for a business situation. She thought up a plan for product promotion. So in this case, past tense, she thought up, she designed a plan for product promotion. But when we say designed, it sounds maybe like she planned something on a computer, perhaps. When we use she thought up, it means she used her mind. She considered the ideas she had and created a plan in her mind for promotion of the product. So thought up uses the mind to create something. Next is to have as an expectation. To have as an expectation, to expect something. I didn't think you'd arrive so quickly. We thought it would take a lot longer to finish dinner. So in the first example sentence, we didn't think you'd arrive so quickly. It means the speaker expects that the listener would take longer to arrive, or the listener was going to arrive later than they actually did. So the speaker in this case had the expectation that the listener was going to arrive later. So they used the negative, we didn't think you'd arrive so quickly. So we didn't think, we didn't expect you'd arrive so quickly. We can replace the verb think with expect here, and it creates the same meaning, the same nuance, really. But think sounds a little bit less formal than expect. So we didn't think you'd arrive so quickly. The second example sentence is, we thought it would take a lot longer to finish dinner. Again, we had the expectation it would take a lot longer to finish dinner. We can replace the verb thought, past tense, with the past tense expected. We expected it would take a lot longer to finish dinner. So in this way, think, or in past tense thought, is used in exactly the same way as expected here. The next meaning is to consider suitability. To consider suitability. Let's look at some examples. I've never thought of him like a manager. We're thinking of her for a higher position. So in the first sentence, I've never thought of him like a manager. In this way, thought means I've never understood him to be suitable for the position of manager. That's a very long way of explaining this sentence. But to condense everything, we use the word thought. I've never thought of him as a manager. It means I've never considered him to potentially be suitable as a manager. In the second example sentence, we're thinking of her for a higher position. It means we're considering whether or not she is suitable for a higher position at her job or a higher position at her company. So in this way, thinking in the progressive tense means we are considering her suitability for a position, a higher level position. So you'll notice that the two example sentences included here are related to work. You'll see, though, that this meaning tends to be used a lot with jobs and maybe political positions, so kind of something maybe promotion related. So promotion related or kind of hierarchy related. You'll often hear this in work situations, employment situations. Let's look at some variations, some other words we can attach to think to create different meanings. First is think better of. Think better of. Think better of means to reconsider and make a better decision or make an improved decision. It means to consider something again and change your decision, hopefully to make an improved decision. Examples. I wanted to say something, but I thought better of it and kept my mouth shut. We'll think better of you if you tell the truth. So in both of these sentences, there's a reconsideration. Someone is considering something again and making an improved decision because of that reconsideration. So in the first example sentence, I wanted to say something. We see in past tense, I wanted to say something, but I thought better of it. So it, in this case, is the thing I wanted to say in the first part of the sentence. I thought better of it means I reconsidered it and decided against my first inclination. I decided not to do the first thing I was thinking about. And I kept my mouth shut. So in this case, my mouth remained closed. In other words, I reconsidered my initial action, the action I initially wanted to do. In the second sentence, we'll think better of you if you tell the truth. We see it's used for future. We will think better of you if you tell the truth, meaning if you tell the truth, our opinion of you will improve. We'll think better of you. So tell the truth and we'll consider you again, essentially, and our opinion of you will improve if you do this. The next variation is think much of. Think much of. This means to have a positive view of or to approve of. Examples. He doesn't think much of his professor. We didn't think much of last night's dinner. We see in the first example sentence, he didn't think much of his professor means he didn't really approve of his professor, or he didn't have a very positive view of his professor. So a shorter way to explain that feeling is he didn't think much of his professor. In the second example sentence, we didn't think much of last night's dinner. This means, again, we didn't really approve of last night's dinner, or we don't have a very positive view or a very positive opinion of last night's dinner. These are rather long, so we can condense it to we didn't think much of last night's dinner. So I hope that this video helped you level up your knowledge of how to use the verb think. If you have any questions or comments, or if you know another way to use the word think, please let us know in the comment section below the video. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good things too. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Oh, I think that your thought about my thought is a thinking thought. What? My name is Alicia, only for this episode. First is... I'm thinking about summer.
It's okay.
Know your verbs. Look at your verbs. Look at your verbs. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb look. So let's go. The basic definition of the verb look is to use your eyes, to use your skills of vision, to use your eyes, to look, to turn your eyes towards something, to use your vision is to look. The difference between the verb see, if you watched the see episode of Know Your Verbs, see means to perceive something with the eyes. Look means like to focus the eyes on something, to direct your attention towards something. Whereas see is like to take in something, to perceive, to gain information with the eyes. Look is just focusing your attention in something, on something. Conjugations! Let's check out the conjugations of this verb. Present tense, look or looks. Past tense, looked. Past participle, looked. Progressive or continuous tense, looking. So let's check out some of the additional meanings of the verb look. First, to appear in accordance with. Here are some examples. She's had a rough year. Yeah, she looks it. Burn. Second example, he's 60? He doesn't look it. Okay, so in these example sentences, look is referring to matching some other information about a person or about a condition, about a situation. So in this case, in the first example sentence, we hear, she's had a rough year. And then the response to that is, yeah, she looks it. So it means it, in other words, the it here means as though she's had a rough year. She looks, meaning she appears in accordance with the fact she has had a rough year. But that's a very long thing to say. Instead, we say, yeah, she looks it. Her appearance suggests what you have just said. She's had a rough year? Yeah, she looks it, where it equals rough year. And looks shows that matches. So her look matches this rough year fact we've learned about her. The second sentence is similar. Someone says, he's 60, meaning he's 60 years old. But we hear the negative response, he doesn't look it, meaning he does not appear as a 60-year-old man, meaning, in other words, he probably looks much younger than 60. He doesn't look it. Could be that he seems way, way older than 60 years old. Like if someone looks ancient, if someone has the appearance of a very, very old person, and you go, oh my gosh, he's 60? He doesn't look it. That's possible too. That's possible, I suppose. So you just have to gauge based on the intonation. So we can use an expression like that to mean someone is significantly younger or older. The next meaning is to seem, to seem. Here are some examples. This looks pretty tough. This is looking like it's going to be easier than I thought. In these example sentences, we can replace the verb look with seem, and the meaning stays the same. So this looks pretty tough has the same meaning as this seems pretty tough. So to seem and to look have the same meaning in these examples. In the second example sentence, we saw, this is looking like it's going to be easier than I thought. We can replace looking with seeming, and the meaning stays the same. This is seeming like it's going to be easier than I thought. So both of these, we can simply replace the verb, and we have the same meaning in these cases. So look means to seem. Why would you use look instead of seem? What is the difference here? For me personally, I think seem sounds slightly more formal than look. I would not use seem in most cases. I would say looks in most cases when I want to say seem. If I want to sound slightly more formal or slightly more polite, I would probably use seem. This seems to be the problem. What seems to be the problem? Instead of what looks like the problem. Or looks like this one's your problem. Like look sounds like not nearly as formal. All right, next is to have in mind as a goal. To have in mind as a goal. Here are some examples. We're looking to buy a new car by the end of the month. He's looking to complete his job transfer by next month. So both of these sentences define a goal. They explain a goal. We're also using the progressive form of looking. So that means we are in the progress of working towards a goal or in the progress of completing a goal. In the first example sentence, we're looking to buy a new car by the end of the month means our goal is to buy a new car by the end of the month, and we are currently trying to do that. But this is quite a long expression, so instead we use look. We are looking to buy a new car. I suppose we could replace this with the verb aiming to. We're aiming to buy a new car. Aiming. But aiming sounds rather formal, and looking is a little bit more casual. So we're looking to buy a new car. In the second sentence, he's looking to complete his job transfer by next month. We see the same thing. His goal is to complete his job transfer, and his aim is to do it by next month. So he is currently working towards his goal. He's looking to complete something. We use it in the progressive tense to show he is currently trying to achieve this goal, to achieve this outcome. The next meaning is to express with your eyes or with your face. So you're creating an appearance with your eyes or your face, an expression, in other words. Here are some examples. She looked surprised. They look pretty angry. Here, both of these examples are talking about an expression, a facial expression, or some appearance that is created with the face or with the eyes. So in the first example, we see she looked surprised in past tense. This indicates that with her face, something about her face or her eyes showed surprise. She created a surprised face with her facial expression, in other words. So she looked surprised. In the second example, they look pretty angry, present tense. They look pretty angry means their facial expression appears angry. Something they are doing with their face or their eyes creates an angry look. Look is a noun here. So they look pretty angry is their expression appears angry. Let's go on to some variations of this. How can we pair other words with look to create a new meaning? First is look into, look into. This means to investigate. Here are some examples. We need to look into these accusations. Have you looked into the requirements for your license? Both of these mean to examine or to investigate something. So in the first example sentence, we need to look into these accusations. Means we need to investigate these accusations. We need to maybe research. We need to search for more information about something. So look into kind of contains all of that. Find more information about something. But look into is much shorter and easier to say, to look into something. It does sound more casual. You could replace this with the verb investigate. We need to investigate these accusations instead of look into these accusations. Investigate sounds more formal than look into. In the second sentence, have you looked into the requirements for your license? We see the same thing. Have you investigated the requirements for your license? But investigated sounds quite polite, quite formal, so instead we use have you looked into, past tense. Have you looked into the requirements? Past tense shows investigation, but it doesn't sound so formal as investigate. The next variation is look the other way. Look the other way. This means to direct your attention away from something unpleasant. Here are some examples. You can't just look the other way while your boss mistreats the employees in your company. We shouldn't look the other way when our fellow humans are in trouble. So these example sentences show the use of look the other way, meaning to look away from something unpleasant. In the first example about a boss mistreating employees in a company, it means we can't just turn our attention away from the mistreatment of the employees in the company, or we should not do that. That's a bad idea. We should not direct our attention away from this unpleasant situation. If there's a bad situation there, we should not ignore that situation. In other words, we should not look the other way. We should not turn our attention away from this bad situation. And in the second example sentence, we shouldn't look the other way when our fellow humans are in trouble. It's a more general statement, but if other humans, fellow humans, other people are in trouble, we should not ignore it. We should not ignore it. We should not turn our attention in another way. Okay, so I hope that this video helped you level up your understanding of the verb look. If you have any questions or comments or know some other uses of the word look, please let us know in the comment section below this video. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for other good things too. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. So many verbs. Luke,
Yeah.
I am your father. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Extremely correct use.
Yep.
Excellent work, French tour guide. Examine. I looked away. I went, I didn't realize how much I used the verb look. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Look. Ask not what you can do for your channel. Ask what your channel can do for you. What? Hi everybody, welcome back to Know Your Verbs. My name is Alicia, and in this episode we're going to talk about the verb ask. So let's get started. The basic definition of the verb ask is to make a request, to make a request. Here are the conjugations. Present tense, ask, asks. Past tense, asked. Past participle, asked. Continuous or progressive, asking. Let's talk about some additional meanings of this verb. First is to require. Here are some examples. You're asking too much of us. They asked a lot of him this year. So in these example sentences, the verb ask means to require, or to require something from someone else. In the first sentence, you're asking too much of us means you're requiring too much of us, or you're requiring too much of something we are able to do. Asking too much shortens this expression. So it's not only require, but like requiring the capabilities or requiring something a person or a machine or an object is able to do. So require, yes, but also require plus capabilities. In the second sentence, we see this as well. So the second sentence was, they asked a lot of him this year. So they required a lot of him. We can't quite replace require for asked here. But we can, the nuance here of ask is they required a lot of his capabilities, or they required a lot of work from him this year. So asked instead condenses all of that, requiring him, requiring his work or his service or something. So we condense all of that into one word, ask here. The next meaning is to set as a price. Here are some examples. The seller is asking $10,000 for the boat. She asked for $100 for her old laptop. All right, in both of these example sentences, ask shows the price of an item, the price a seller chooses for an item, or the price the seller hopes to receive for an item. It's the price that the seller has set for something. In the first example, we see asking in the progressive or the continuous tense. The seller is asking $10,000, meaning the seller currently hopes to receive $10,000 for the boat. So if it's helpful, you can imagine the seller asking the buyer for this amount, the seller requesting this amount from the buyer for this amount. So the seller is asking for $10,000 for the boat, but we remove the preposition for. Asking $10,000 for the boat is essentially requesting the seller for $10,000. So requesting the seller for is like a long way of saying this expression. We can shorten this to asking. The buyer is asking $10,000 for. In the second example sentence, we see she asked for $100 for her old laptop. So in this example sentence, we do see the preposition for. She asked for $100 for her old laptop. We can include the preposition for, but it is okay to drop it in these cases where it is clear that the meaning is a price for an item. So she asked is past tense. So a past tense situation, she wanted to receive $100 for her old laptop, meaning she asked for or she requested the buyer pay $100 for her old laptop. So requested the buyer pay is shortened to asked for in this case. So we can use it with or without the for preposition. The next meaning is to call on for an answer. Here are some examples. He asked his boss about the upcoming changes. She asks her neighbors for help every year. So to ask in these cases, it's not quite a request in this case, but rather we're looking for information. We're looking for an answer. We have a question about something, or we need some information, and so we inquire for information. I suppose you can think of it like making an information request in that way. But we're looking for some kind of answer. We go to someone to get information, to get an answer about a question. In the first example, he asked his boss about the upcoming changes. The information he wants is about these changes maybe at his company. So he asks means he's looking for an answer. He asked his boss for information. He's looking for an answer about something. In the second sentence, she asks her neighbors for help every year means she's looking for answers, something she needs an answer to. She's looking for help. She's looking for assistance, answers for some problem that she has. So she inquires about information. She's looking for information. So to get an answer to something, like a problem or an issue you need to solve, we can use ask. Next is to invite, to invite. Here are some examples. I asked some friends to come over this weekend. Why don't you ask your coworkers to go out for a drink? So in the first example sentence, we can replace asked in the past tense with invited in past tense, and the meaning stays the same. I invited some friends to come over this weekend. We can use invite, of course, if we want, but invite sounds slightly more formal than ask. Instead of using the more formal invite, we can use the more casual ask, like I asked some people to come over this weekend. Sounds slightly less formal than invited. In the second example sentence, the same thing is true. Why don't you ask your coworkers to go out for a drink? We can replace ask here with invite. Why don't you invite your coworkers out for a drink? Again, invite sounds slightly more formal than ask. So ask sounds a little bit more casual, so it sounds maybe a little bit more natural and a little more friendly than the word invite. Okay. Now let's look at some other words we can add to ask to make different meanings. First is ask for it. Ask for it. This means to behave in a way that invites punishment or retribution. So retribution means like it can refer to punishment or it can refer to a reward as well, but in this case it's more for a negative reaction, Let's look at some examples. The drunk guy in the bar is shouting at everyone. He's really asking for it. Your boyfriend broke up with you? Well, you kind of asked for it. You never made time for him. So in these example sentences, we see some behaviors that maybe invite punishment or that invite a negative outcome. In the first example, a drunk person in a bar is shouting at everybody. So the speaker says he's really asking for it, meaning the drunk guy is inviting punishment, is inviting a negative outcome because of his behavior. He's really asking for it. We see that this is used in the progressive form. He's asking for it, meaning that his current behavior, the behavior he is showing now, is inviting punishment or is inviting a negative outcome. In the second sentence, where a speaker is probably having a conversation with someone, they say, "You broke up with your boyfriend? Well, you kind of asked for it," past tense, because you didn't make time for him. You didn't make any time for him shows that perhaps in the past, the listener did not behave in a way that invited a positive outcome, meaning you asked for your boyfriend to break up with you, or you invited this negative outcome because of your actions. You did not make time for your boyfriend, therefore he broke up with you. So you did not have the correct behavior. You invited a negative outcome because of your actions. Okay, the next one is ask for trouble. Ask for trouble. This means to behave in a way that is likely to end in trouble. This is very similar to ask for it, but instead of just receiving punishment, it could just be a troubling situation that results. Let's look at some examples. That kid is running around kicking his classmates. He's just asking for trouble. Trying to enter the country without a passport is just asking for trouble. So in both of these sentences, we see asking for trouble is used in the progressive tense. So doing some action is likely to result in a troubling situation in the future. Perhaps it's not necessarily punishment, but it's going to cause trouble. It's going to cause a problem. In the first example, a kid running around kicking his classmates is a bad behavior and it's going to invite trouble. In this case, it's probably going to be punishment, but to say he's really asking for it might suggest something a little bit too violent. Like to say he's really asking for it sounds a little bit too much for a little kid. So perhaps he's asking for trouble suggests that he's causing a troubling situation. The kid might not have like severe, strong punishment as a result of his actions, but he could end up in trouble because of his behavior. In the second example, trying to enter the country without a passport is just asking for trouble. It doesn't necessarily mean that there will be a punishment for trying to enter the country. While it might be likely that trouble does result or that punishment does result, it's more general to say just asking for trouble. So this action, trying to enter the country without a passport, this action is just asking for trouble, is inviting some troubling situation to occur. Okay, I hope that this video helped you level up your understanding of the verb ask. If you have any questions or comments, or if you know a different way of using the verb ask, please let us know in the comment section below this video. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some more resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Ask and you shall receive. Coffee. We've asked all the questions today. Goodbye. Verb, verb, verb. The verb is the word. Verb. That's hard to say. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Know Your Verbs. In this episode, we're going to talk about the verb work. Let's get started. The basic definition of the verb work is to fulfill duties for money or for compensation. Compensation means payment. So for example, salary or an hourly wage. So compensation. So to do things in exchange for money is work. This is a basic definition of the verb work. Now let's look at the different conjugations of this verb. Present tense, work, works. Past tense, worked. Past participle tense, worked. Progressive tense, working. Now let's talk about some additional meanings of the verb work. Meaning 1. The first additional meaning is to function correctly. To function correctly means an object is behaving, is functioning in the proper way. So let's look at some examples. My computer isn't working today. What happened? The mechanic fixed my car, and now it works perfectly. Meaning 2. Yeah. Okay, the second definition is to produce a desired effect or result, or to succeed at something. So some examples of this meaning. His plan is crazy, but I think it might work. I don't think that'll work. Fun fact, I took that example sentence, I don't think that'll work, from a video game called Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. I don't think that'll work. Next one is to control or to cause to labor. To cause to labor. So labor means like to fulfill your duties. To work as in the original basic meaning of this word. So let's look at some examples. Management worked the team way too hard last year. Today, we're working the computer remotely. Now, let's look at some variations. The first variation is work on, work on. Work on means to try to affect, or like to try to influence, to try to persuade someone. Some examples of this. Politicians often work on voters' fears. So to work on someone's fears, it's like they're affecting that. They are trying to persuade people by focusing on their fears in this example sentence. The movie works on viewers' sympathy. So here, works on, the movie works on means the movie kind of is affecting the sympathy of the viewer. And then as a result, influence happens. So a change in emotion happens in this way, to work on. The second variation is work out, work out. So work out means to exercise. Work out can mean to lift weights, to jog, to do sports, whatever. Work out just means exercise. Examples of this, I never work out. She's been working out 3 days a week for the last year. Overachiever. The third variation for this lesson is work up. Work up. So work up means to gradually make progress, but with difficulty. Examples of this, he worked up to asking the girl on a date. She worked her way up to becoming CEO of a company. So to work up to something is like slowly and with difficulty making progress. So we can split this phrasal verb, like she worked her way up, or he worked up to asking the girl on a date. So we pair work with the preposition up in this example. Okay, do you know a little bit more about the verb work? If you have any other variations, or if you know a different meaning of the verb work, or if you just want to practice making a sentence with this verb, please feel free to do so in the comment section. All right, if you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other good study resources. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Know Your Verbs. We'll see you again soon. Bye. We can work it out. We're working now. Live to work, work to live. Which will you be? Her pen works. It's true. She just drew a picture of me. Remember, here's what you can do to learn all of these words by heart. Drill these words with our spaced repetition flashcards, which will help cement these words into your long-term memory. Save them to the Word Bank, your personal vocabulary collection where you can print out your own study sheets, or review the words with our looped vocabulary slideshow and play it until you know all of the words. So click the link in the description right now and sign up for your free lifetime account to get these lessons and study tools.